Today we're examining a case that transformed Dubai Crescent Hospital from a beacon of medical excellence into the scene of an unimaginable crime. Behind the pristine walls and cutting-edge technology of the United Arab Emirates' premier medical institution, a dark obsession was forming, one that would ultimately lead to murder in the most chilling sense. The woman who dedicated her life to saving others would be found where no living person belongs, her body discovered by morgue staff during what should have been a routine morning check. What began as a workplace romance between a celebrated surgeon and a compassionate nurse spiraled into possession, control, and ultimately, a desperate act that shocked the medical community worldwide. Because when they opened that freezer door, what they found challenged everything they thought they knew about the man who held lives in his hands daily. Dr. Zain Al-Farsi was 46 years old when he committed the act that would define his legacy, not as a healer, but as a killer. Before that fateful night in September 2023, he was the undisputed star of Dubai's medical community. Born to a prominent Emirati family with ties to the ruling class, Zain had been destined for greatness from an early age. He attended King's College London for his medical degree, followed by specialized cardiac training at Harvard Medical School and the Cleveland Clinic, where he developed innovative techniques for minimally invasive valve replacements. His research was published in the New England Journal of Medicine and The Lancet, establishing him as a rising star long before he returned to Dubai. By 2018, Dr. Al-Farsi's patient survival rate for high-risk cardiac procedures stood at 98.7%, nearly 12 percentage points above the international average. His hands moved with mechanical precision, his mind processed complex medical variables instantaneously, and his decisions in the operating theater were described by colleagues as nearly divine in their accuracy. According to hospital financial records, his department generated over 178 million dirhams, approximately $48.5 million, annually for Dubai Crescent Hospital, attracting wealthy patients from across the Middle East, Russia, and Central Asia who sought his expertise specifically. Zain wasn't just a surgeon, recalled Dr. James Morrison, an American anesthesiologist who worked with him for 6 years. He was a brand. The hospital marketed him like a luxury product, and patients paid accordingly. Outside the operating theater, Dr. Al-Farsi cultivated the image of a medical humanitarian. He served on the board of 3 prominent healthcare charities, donated significantly to medical missions in conflict zones, and appeared regularly on local television discussing advances in cardiac care. His annual medical symposium drew cardiac specialists from 47 countries. He was photographed with royalty, featured in Emirates Airlines in-flight magazine, and received the Golden Excellence Award from the UAE Ministry of Health in both 2019 and 2021. His marriage to Nadia Al-Farsi, née Al-Mazrouei, at age 32 had further cemented his social standing. Nadia, now 43, was the daughter of Fahad Al-Mazrouei, whose construction empire had built much of modern Dubai. Their wedding at the Burj Al Arab had been featured in Vogue Arabia, with 600 guests including minor royalty and international celebrities. The couple maintained a spectacular 5,200-square-foot penthouse in Dubai Marina with views of the Palm Jumeirah, a summer home in Switzerland, and an extensive art collection focused on contemporary Middle Eastern artists. They appeared together at charity galas, art exhibitions, and the Dubai World Cup, always impeccably dressed and camera-ready. But according to later testimony from household staff, they maintained separate bedrooms and rarely dined together. The marriage appeared to be one of mutual benefit rather than affection, her family connections and wealth supporting his career, while his prestige elevated her social position beyond that of merely another wealthy Emirati daughter. Dr. Al-Farsi's daily routine reflected his meticulous nature. He arrived at the hospital at precisely 6:45 a.m., reviewed patient files for exactly 45 minutes, conducted rounds from 7:30 to 9 o'clock, performed surgeries from 9:15 to 2:30, held consultations until 5 o'clock, and then spent evenings reviewing research or attending functions. His executive assistant Mariam Almhiri kept his schedule with military precision, often booking appointments 6 months in advance. She would later testify that he became visibly agitated when his routine was disrupted by even 5 minutes. He once terminated a nurse for bringing him coffee at 6:53 instead of 6:50, recalled Dr. Sanjay Gupta, a colleague in cardiology. Not fired her, had her contract with the hospital terminated entirely. That was Zain. Brilliant, but absolutely merciless with anyone who failed to meet his standards. In stark contrast to Dr. Al-Farsi's privileged existence, Amihan Reyes had traveled a much harder road to Dubai Crescent Hospital. Born in 1995 in Quezon City, Philippines, she was the oldest of 4 children in a working-class family. Her father, a construction worker, died in a workplace accident when she was 12, leaving her mother Elena to support the family by working multiple jobs as a housekeeper. Despite financial hardship, Amihan excelled academically, earning a nursing scholarship to the University of the Philippines, Manila, where she graduated summa cum laude in 2016. Her clinical instructors noted her exceptional empathy and intuition with patients, qualities that technical training alone couldn't provide. Amihan had healing hands. Her university advisor, Dr. Luningning Santos, later told investigators. She could sense things about patients that weren't visible on monitors or charts. It's something you can't teach. After graduation, Amihan worked for 2 years at Philippine General Hospital before accepting a position at Singapore General Hospital, where her skills caught the attention of international recruiters. The salary increase allowed her to send more money home to support her mother, who had developed rheumatoid arthritis and struggled to work, and her siblings who were still in school. Monthly bank records showed that despite earning a comfortable income in Singapore, Amihan lived frugally, sending up to 70% of her earnings back to Manila. When Dubai Crescent Hospital offered her a position in their cardiac unit in January 2023 with nearly double her Singapore salary, the decision was practical rather than ambitious. Her mother's condition was deteriorating, requiring expensive medications and potential surgery, while her youngest brother Marco was preparing for medical school. The position represented financial security for her family, not personal advancement. In Dubai, Amihan lived in the hospital's staff accommodation in Al-Quaz, sharing a 3-bedroom apartment with 5 other Filipino nurses. She decorated her small portion of a shared bedroom with family photos and a small wooden cross from her grandmother. Unlike many expatriate workers who explored Dubai's famous attractions, Amihan rarely ventured beyond work, accommodation, and the nearby Filipino supermarket. Her smartphone data showed regular 2-hour video calls to Manila every Sunday, her only consistent leisure activity. Within weeks of joining the cardiac unit, Amihan established a reputation among patients for extraordinary care. She learned basic phrases in Arabic, Russian, and Hindi to comfort international patients, developed a system for reducing postoperative anxiety in children, and was frequently requested by name by returning patients. One particularly notable case involved an 8-year-old Emirati girl who had suffered complications after valve replacement. When standard protocols failed to stabilize her, Amihan incorporated a breathing technique from Philippine traditional healing alongside conventional care. The child stabilized within hours. She had this presence, observed head nurse Fatima Al-Shamsi. Patients who were agitated would calm down when she entered the room. Some staff thought it was superstition, but I saw it consistently. There was something special about her approach to healing. Dubai Crescent Hospital itself stood as a monument to the Emirates' ambitions in medical tourism. Completed in 2017 at a cost of 3.2 billion dirhams, the 52-story tower featured a distinctive crescent-shaped design, with its glass exterior changing color throughout the day. The facility housed 820 patient beds, 42 operating theaters, and medical technology often acquired before it was available elsewhere in the region. The contrast between public and staff areas was striking. Patient suites resembled luxury hotel rooms with Italian marble, designer furnishings, and floor-to-ceiling views of the Dubai skyline. VIP floors featured private chefs, concierge services, and helicopter access. Meanwhile, staff areas were utilitarian and functional, clean and efficient, but devoid of the opulence displayed to patients and visitors. The hospital hierarchy reflected Dubai's complex social stratification. Western-educated physicians, predominantly European, American, and Australian, occupied the highest tier, followed by Arab administrators and department heads, then Western-trained nurses, And finally, the predominantly Southeast Asian support staff who comprised nearly 70% of the hospital workforce. The cardiac unit occupied floors 30 through 33, with Dr. Al-Farsi's private office featuring a separate elevator and security access. The morgue facilities were located on basement level 2, a sterile, cold environment rarely visited by medical staff outside the pathology department. The contrast between the sunlit cardiac floors and the windowless basement would later take on grim significance. Head nurse Fatima Al-Shamsi, a UAE national with 25 years of experience, directly supervised Amihan and would later provide critical testimony about the changing dynamics she observed. Hospital Administrator Ibrahim Khoury, a Lebanese-American with an MBA from Wharton, managed operational aspects of the cardiac department and approved Dr. Al-Farsi's increasingly unusual scheduling requests. Security Chief Khalid Al-Blaushi, a former police colonel, oversaw the hospital's extensive camera system and access controls that would eventually document crucial timeline evidence. The first significant interaction between Dr. Al-Farsi and Amihan Reyes occurred on February 17, 2023, during an emergency procedure on Sheikh Abdullah bin Khalid Al Maktoum, a 62-year-old distant relative of Dubai's ruling family. The patient experienced sudden arrhythmia during what should have been a routine stent placement. As his vitals destabilized, Dr. Al-Farsi ordered a standard pharmaceutical intervention. Amihan, who had been in the cardiac unit for just over a month, stepped forward. With respect, doctor, his reaction suggests vagal sensitivity. The standard dose might worsen the arrhythmia. She instead proposed an alternative approach combining a lower medication dose with physical positioning techniques she had learned in Singapore. The operating room fell silent. No one contradicted Dr. Al-Farsi, especially not a recently hired Filipino nurse. The surgeon looked up, his expression unreadable behind his surgical mask, and after 3 seconds that felt like hours to the team, nodded once. Proceed. The intervention worked. The patient stabilized within minutes, avoiding what might have been a dangerous crisis. Rather than displaying his typical anger at being challenged, Dr. Al-Farsi observed Amihan's technique with intense interest. After the procedure, instead of immediately leaving as was his custom, he requested that she join him for the patient debriefing. What was scheduled as a 15-minute discussion extended to nearly 3 hours. Amihan explained how her grandmother, a traditional healer in the Philippines, had taught her to observe subtle body cues that modern medicine sometimes overlooked. Dr. Al-Farsi, trained in purely evidence-based approaches, was simultaneously skeptical and fascinated. He asked questions like he was interviewing a research subject, Nurse Fatima recalled. I'd never seen him so engaged with any staff member, let alone someone junior. It was unusual enough that I mentioned it to my husband that evening. In the days following, staff noticed subtle but significant changes in Dr. Al-Farsi's behavior. He began specifically requesting Amihan for his surgical team. He modified his strict scheduling protocol to observe her during routine patient care. He lingered in the cardiac unit during her shifts, something previously unheard of for a surgeon who valued his time to the minute. Dr. Layla Hakim, a cardiologist who had worked alongside Dr. Al-Farsi for 5 years, noted his changing demeanor. He started asking about her background, her training. He even initiated conversations about Philippine healthcare practices, which was strange because Zain rarely showed interest in anything he couldn't measure or quantify. By early March, just 3 weeks after their first significant interaction, Dr. Al-Farsi had begun finding reasons to summon Amihan to his office for consultations on patient cases. Security logs would later show that these meetings grew increasingly frequent and extended well beyond normal hospital hours. What began as professional curiosity was transforming into something more troubling, a fascination that would ultimately turn deadly. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. By March 2023, the dynamics between Dr. Zain Al-Farsi and Amihan Reyes had evolved beyond professional mentorship into something more complex. Their interactions in hospital corridors were charged with unspoken tension. Staff noticed lingering eye contact during rounds, conversations that stopped when others approached, and an unusual pattern of Amihan being summoned to Dr. Al-Farsi's office for what were documented as patient consultations, but often lasted hours. The first inappropriate physical encounter occurred on April 3, 2023, following a 7-hour emergency surgery on a 39-year-old British expatriate suffering from an aortic dissection. The operation had been particularly challenging, with the patient coding twice on the table before Dr. Al-Farsi's skilled hands stabilized the damaged vessel. The successful outcome had produced the intense emotional high that surgeons sometimes experience. A rush of adrenaline, relief, and power that comes from pulling someone back from death's edge. At 11:42 p.m., according to hospital security logs, Dr. Al-Farsi requested Amihan's assistance in his private office to complete post-operative documentation. When the door closed, witnesses in adjacent rooms would later report hearing raised voices, then silence. What transpired, according to Amihan's subsequent statement to investigators, began as a professional discussion that quickly shifted when Dr. Al-Farsi touched her hand while describing the surgical technique. He said, "My presence." Throughout this period, Nadia maintained an immaculate public image alongside Zain. They attended the Governor's Health Innovation Gala on August 18, appeared at the opening of a cardiac research wing named after her family on August 27, and hosted a dinner for visiting cardiac specialists on September 2. Photographs from these events show her smiling at his side, her hand resting lightly on his arm, the perfect supporting spouse to Dubai's medical star. As summer progressed into early autumn, Dr. Al-Farsi's behavior toward Amihan transformed from attentive to controlling. By mid-August, he had begun explicitly dictating her movements within the hospital. Email directives from his office restricted which patients she could treat, which staff members she could assist, and which hospital areas she could access during shifts. On August 22, he instructed hospital administrator Ibrahim to modify her security clearance, ostensibly for specialized project access, but effectively allowing him to monitor her entry and exit from all hospital zones. Text messages recovered from Amihan's phone showed his increasing demands for her whereabouts. On August 14, "Why aren't you answering? I've called 3 times. August 19, "Who were you sitting with in the cafeteria? The male nurse from pediatrics. August 25, "I've changed your schedule. You're assisting my surgery at 2 p.m. Cancel your meeting with the nursing director." On September 1, 2023, technical forensics would later reveal that spyware was installed on Amihan's personal phone. The software, identified as Pegasus ProTrack, was a commercial-grade monitoring tool typically sold to corporate security departments and law enforcement. It allowed real-time location tracking, access to all messages and calls, and remote activation of the phone's microphone. The installation occurred during a period when Amihan had left her phone in Dr. Al-Farsi's office while assisting with an emergency procedure. His physical presence in her life outside the hospital also increased dramatically. Security footage from her staff accommodation showed his luxury Mercedes appearing unannounced on at least 7 occasions in September. Restaurant staff at locations where she dined with friends reported his unexpected arrivals. On September 12, he appeared at a Filipino community center event that Amihan was attending with her roommates, something she had not mentioned to him. Perhaps most disturbingly, Dr. Al-Farsi began inserting himself into Amihan's family relationships. In early September, without her knowledge, he arranged for her mother Elena to receive treatment at St. Luke's Medical Center in Manila, one of the Philippines' most expensive private hospitals. Bank records show he transferred approximately 285,000 pesos, $5,000, directly to the hospital for rheumatoid arthritis treatments. When Amihan discovered this arrangement during a call with her mother on September 8, her reaction was captured on a voice message sent to her sister Maria. "He didn't even ask me. He just did it. Mama thinks it's a hospital program for families of overseas workers. She keeps telling me how lucky I am to work for such a caring institution. I don't know how to tell her the truth." By mid-September, Amihan had begun expressing explicit concerns about her safety to close friends. Text messages to her roommate Jasmine on September 14 read, "He was angry I went to the Filipino supermarket without telling him. Said he went to my apartment looking for me. How did he know I wasn't there? Is he watching me?" These concerns culminated in a disturbing incident on September 18, when Amihan attempted to create some distance by volunteering for extra shifts in the pediatric ward. Dr. Al-Farsi appeared on the floor, visibly agitated, and demanded she return to the cardiac unit immediately. When she tried to explain that she was covering for a sick colleague, he gripped her arm tightly enough to leave marks documented in photographs she later sent to her sister. "I'm starting to feel like I can't breathe," she wrote to Maria that night. "Everything I do is wrong somehow. He's different now, not the person I thought he was. I need to find a way out, but I'm scared of what he might do." By late September 2023, Amihan Reyes was trapped in a situation spiraling beyond her control. Her mother Elena's rheumatoid arthritis had progressed significantly, with complications affecting her heart and lungs. Medical reports from St. Luke's Medical Center in Manila, forwarded to Amihan on September 21st, indicated that Elena's condition had deteriorated to the point where she required full-time care and potentially heart valve surgery within 6 months. "She can barely hold a glass now," Amihan's sister Maria explained during a video call on September 22nd. "The doctor says she needs someone with medical training to manage her medications. Marco is still in school, and I can't leave my job. You're the only one who can help her properly." This family crisis coincided with an unexpected professional opportunity. On September 24th, Dr. Javier Santos, Chief of Cardiac Nursing at Philippine Heart Center in Manila, contacted Amihan with a formal job offer. The position, Assistant Director of Cardiac Nursing, came with a monthly salary of 85,000 pesos, approximately $1,500, significantly less than her Dubai earnings but sufficient for Manila's cost of living while allowing her to care for her mother. The start date was set for November 15th, giving her just 7 weeks to transition her life back to the Philippines. The offer represented both salvation and crisis for Amihan. In her private journal, found later in her staff accommodation, she wrote on September 25th, "This is the answer I've been praying for, but also the conversation I'm terrified to have. How do I tell him I'm leaving? Every instinct says he won't accept it. But Mama needs me. That has to come first." Over the next 3 days, Amihan consulted with her closest friends in the Filipino community about her decision. During a discreet gathering at Nurse Gabriel Santos' apartment, deliberately held without phones present due to Amihan's fear of surveillance, the group discussed strategies for her safe departure from Dubai. "We went around the circle giving advice," Santos later testified. "Some said leave without notice, others suggested transitioning gradually." Amihan was most worried about how Dr. Al-Farsi would react. She kept saying, "He thinks he owns me now." After this consultation, Amihan developed a careful exit strategy. She began researching flights to Manila, using the hospital's public computers rather than her own devices. She quietly arranged for her most treasured possessions to be shipped to her family's home through a Filipino cargo service, labeling the boxes as gifts rather than personal belongings. She deposited savings into her sister's bank account rather than her own, fearing monitoring of her finances. On September 29th, Amihan drafted her formal resignation letter on the hospital's computer system. The document, recovered later from the HR database, was professionally worded and cited urgent family medical circumstances as the reason for departure. She requested a standard 4-week notice period, with her final day being October 27, 2023. She submitted this resignation to HR Director Aisha Mohammed at precisely 10:15 a.m. on September 30th, timing the meeting to coincide with Dr. Al-Farsi's scheduled surgery that would keep him occupied until afternoon. Surveillance footage showed a tense but composed Amihan handing over the paperwork, her hands visibly trembling despite her professional demeanor. "She asked me to process the resignation without notifying Dr. Al-Farsi immediately," Mohammed later testified. "She said she wanted to inform him personally. This was unusual but not against protocol, so I agreed." In the days following her resignation submission, Amihan systematically distanced herself from Dr. Al-Farsi. Hospital records show she requested assignment to general cardiac duties rather than his specific cases. She began taking lunch breaks with larger groups of staff rather than alone. She cited technical issues with her personal phone as an excuse for delayed responses to his messages. She even altered her usual routes through the hospital to avoid areas where they typically encountered each other privately. Before we continue with what happened next, Take a moment to consider the warning signs that appeared throughout this relationship. The isolation from friends and colleagues, the monitoring of movements and communications, the insistence on knowing her whereabouts at all times, the escalating control over her professional and personal life. These are classic indicators of a dangerous obsession that extends beyond normal relationship dynamics. If you've experienced similar warning signs or know someone who has, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Your insights might help someone else recognize a dangerous situation before it escalates too far. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more in-depth examinations of cases that teach us important lessons about human behavior and safety. The shocking developments you're about to hear could happen to anyone who misses these critical signals. While Amihan was carefully planning her departure, Zain Al-Farsi was preparing her own strategic intervention. On October 2, 2023, she orchestrated a confrontation that would dramatically accelerate the tragic events to come. Selecting a Tuesday evening when she knew Zain would return home relatively early, Nadia arranged the setting with calculated precision. In their spacious living room overlooking Dubai Marina, she positioned herself in his favorite chair, with a leather portfolio on the glass coffee table before her. According to the housekeeper who was present earlier that day, Nadia was unusually specific about the room's arrangement, the chilling of a particular vintage champagne, and her own appearance, selecting an outfit Zain had previously complimented. It was like she was setting a stage, the housekeeper later told investigators. When Dr. Al-Farsi arrived at 7:43 p.m., security footage from their building showed him appearing relaxed, checking his phone as he exited the elevator. This would be the last moment of normalcy he would experience. Inside the apartment, Nadia waited until he had changed and poured himself a drink before she opened the portfolio. "I believe congratulations are in order," she began, her voice steady and emotionless. "Your nurse Amihan has resigned. I assume she'll be joining you wherever you're planning to go next." Before Zain could respond, she methodically laid out the evidence she had gathered. First, a series of photographs showing him with Amihan entering and leaving the address downtown hotel on 7 separate occasions. Next, credit card statements highlighting jewelry purchases totaling over 500,000 dirhams. Then, printed transcripts of text messages between them, including explicit exchanges and discussions of their future together. "My father didn't invest millions in your career for you to destroy our family name with a Filipino nurse," Nadia stated, according to her subsequent statement to investigators. She then detailed the extensive connections her family maintained with Dubai's medical licensing board, including her cousin who served as its deputy director. She outlined how a morality complaint from her family would trigger an immediate suspension of his medical license pending investigation. She then presented financial projections prepared by her family's accountants. "These show your earnings without hospital privileges or my family's connections," she explained, pointing to figures showing a 92% reduction in his potential income. The documents also outlined the legal contingencies in their marriage contract that would leave him with minimal assets in case of divorce due to infidelity. "You have exactly one choice," Nadia concluded. "End this immediately and completely. No goodbyes, no explanations. You will continue your work and our marriage as if nothing happened. You have until Friday to comply, or my father makes one phone call." According to Nadia's statement, Zain's initial reaction was stunned silence followed by anger. He paced the room, alternating between denials, accusations that she was spying on him, and attempts to minimize the relationship as nothing serious. When these tactics failed against Nadia's impassive presentation of evidence, he shifted to bargaining, suggesting they could work through this or take some time apart. Nadia remained unmoved. "This isn't a negotiation," she told him. "This is notification of consequences. Friday, not a day longer." She then left the apartment to stay at her family's property in Jumeirah, leaving Zain alone with the portfolio of evidence and the ultimatum hanging over him. Building security footage showed her departing at 8:27 p.m., her expression composed and determined. The psychological impact of this confrontation on Dr. Al-Farsi was immediate and profound. The following morning, October 3rd, colleagues noted significant changes in his behavior. Dr. James Morrison, who assisted in a scheduled valve replacement that morning, reported that Dr. Al-Farsi's hands, normally rock-steady, visibly trembled during the procedure. He seemed distracted, kept checking the door as if expecting someone, Morrison stated in his testimony. At one point, he made an incision several millimeters off target, something I'd never seen him do in 6 years of working together. By afternoon, his condition had deteriorated further. Nurse Fatima Al-Shamsi documented in her personal notes that Dr. Al-Farsi appeared agitated and unfocused during patient consultations. He asked the same questions repeatedly, and at one point referred to a male patient as her. When I corrected him, he snapped at me in front of the patient's family. The most concerning incident occurred during afternoon rounds when Dr. Al-Farsi prescribed 100 milligrams of a cardiac medication when the standard dose was 10 milligrams. The error was caught by the attending pharmacist, who contacted Nurse Fatima for verification. When she approached Dr. Al-Farsi about the discrepancy, witnesses reported that he became defensive and insisted the dosage was correct until shown the reference materials. That evening, security cameras captured Dr. Al-Farsi entering the hospital's medical library at 8:42 p.m., where he remained until after midnight. Library records show he accessed medical journals related to cardiac surgery, but also conducted searches for tracking international flights, Philippines visa requirements, and Manila housing options. Meanwhile, in his penthouse, investigators would later discover pages from his personal journal that documented his rapidly deteriorating mental state. An entry from October 4th read, "She can't leave. She doesn't understand what we have. Nobody has ever connected with me the way she does. She sees the real me, not just the surgeon everyone wants something from. Without her, I'll be alone again, surrounded by people who only value what I can do for them." As the week progressed, Dr. Al-Farsi's behavior grew increasingly erratic. Multiple staff members reported him standing outside the cardiac nurse's station for extended periods, watching Amihan's movements. Security footage from October 5th showed him following her to the hospital cafeteria, maintaining a distance of approximately 20 meters, then leaving without purchasing food when she sat with colleagues. Dr. Sarah Wilson, the forensic psychiatrist who later analyzed the case, identified this period as the critical transition in Dr. Al-Farsi's psychology. He was experiencing the collapse of two separate fantasy worlds simultaneously, Dr. Wilson explained in court testimony. The professional persona he had cultivated was threatened by Nadia's ultimatum, while his romantic delusion was unraveling due to Amihan's resignation. For someone with his narcissistic traits, this represented an existential crisis, a complete loss of identity and control. By October 6th, the situation had reached a breaking point. Amihan, aware of Dr. Al-Farsi's increasingly concerning behavior but unaware of Nadia's ultimatum, attempted one final, clear conversation to end their relationship. She selected the hospital chapel, a public space with security cameras but offering sufficient privacy for a personal conversation. The meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. during her afternoon break. Security footage showed Amihan entering the chapel at 1:58 p.m. and Dr. Al-Farsi arriving 3 minutes later. Although the chapel had no audio surveillance, the camera captured their interaction in silent tableau. Amihan spoke first, her expression gentle but firm as she gestured occasionally toward herself and then toward what appeared to be a photograph of her family she placed on the pew between them. Dr. Al-Farsi initially remained seated, shaking his head repeatedly. As the conversation progressed, his body language shifted, leaning forward aggressively, then standing to pace, then sitting again closer to her. At one point, he reached for her hand, which she carefully withdrew. He then removed what appeared to be a small jewelry box from his pocket, which she refused with a gentle headshake. According to Amihan's subsequent text to her roommate Jasmine at 2:43 p.m., the conversation had been difficult but necessary. "I told him about Mama's condition and the job in Manila. Explained I need to be there for my family. He didn't take it well. First offering to bring my mother here for treatment, then suggesting he could set me up with a private practice in Dubai where I'd have more freedom. When I insisted I was leaving, he got scary quiet and said, 'We'll discuss this again when you're thinking more clearly.'" Their final public interaction occurred later that afternoon during patient rounds. Witnesses reported that Dr. Al-Farsi behaved as if their chapel conversation had never happened, discussing cases with Amihan in his usual authoritative manner. Only those who knew him well noticed the unusual tension in his shoulders, the slightly too wide smile that never reached his eyes. That evening, at 7:24 p.m., Dr. Al-Farsi sent Amihan his last text message. "I need your assistance with a special case tonight. Meet me in the morgue at 11:30 p.m. There's something important about a patient you should see before you make any final decisions." Amihan replied at 7:46 p.m. "I'm scheduled in cardiac 4 until midnight. Can we discuss this tomorrow during regular hours?" Dr. Al-Farsi's final message at 7:47 p.m. was simple. "This can't wait. 11:30. I'll explain everything then." At 9:32 p.m., Amihan sent a message to her sister Maria that would later prove prophetic. "Something feels wrong about tonight. If anything happens to me, all my important documents are in the blue folder in my locker. Tell Mama I love her." At 11:28 p.m., security cameras captured Amihan reluctantly making her way toward the hospital basement where the morgue was located. She paused twice, appearing to consider turning back, before finally pushing through the doors that would lead to her final confrontation with Dr. Zain Al-Farsi. October 6, 2023, began as a routine night shift for Amihan Reyes. She arrived at Dubai Crescent Hospital at 3:42 p.m., swiped her ID badge at the staff entrance, and proceeded directly to the cardiac unit on the 31st floor. The night held an unusual tranquility. Only 3 post-operative patients required monitoring, compared to the typical 8 to 10. Hospital admission records showed lower-than-average occupancy due to a regional holiday weekend, creating an eerie quiet throughout the normally bustling facility. Security footage tracked Amihan's movements throughout the evening. At 7:19 p.m., she visited the staff cafeteria, sitting alone while reading medical documentation. At 8:42 p.m., she returned to the cardiac unit to administer scheduled medications. At 10:15 p.m., she was recorded speaking briefly with Nurse Gabriel Santos near the nurses' station. The last conversation anyone would have with her while she was alive. "She seemed distracted," Santos later testified. "She checked her phone several times while we talked. I asked if everything was okay, and she said, 'Just tired.'" Before leaving, she mentioned needing to meet Dr. Al-Farsi later about a patient case. "I remember thinking it was odd since he wasn't on duty that night." Dr. Zain Al-Farsi, indeed, had no scheduled responsibilities at the hospital that evening. Yet security logs showed his Mercedes entering the VIP parking garage at 10:37 p.m. He bypassed the main entrance, instead using his private access card to enter through the executive wing at 10:42 p.m. This entrance lacked the standard security screening process, allowing him to bring items into the hospital without inspection. Head of security Khalid Al-Blaushi later noted several concerning details about Dr. Al-Farsi's appearance that night. He was wearing casual clothes, jeans, and a polo shirt, not his usual formal attire or scrubs. He carried a leather medical bag that seemed unusually heavy. When I greeted him, he barely acknowledged me, which was unlike his typical behavior. His eyes had a strange intensity. At 11:02 p.m., Dr. Al-Farsi sent the text message that would lure Amihan to her death. "Need your consultation on unusual post-mortem findings. Morgue B, 11:30. Critical for research paper we discussed." This message, recovered later from Amihan's phone, referenced a non-existent research project, a fabrication designed to appeal to her professional interests. The route to the morgue required Amihan to descend from the cardiac unit on level 31 to the basement level 2. Security footage captured her entering the service elevator at 11:24 p.m., hesitating briefly before pressing the button. The camera recorded her checking her phone, appearing to consider a message, then squaring her shoulders as if gathering courage. At 11:28 p.m., she exited the elevator into the basement corridor, a dimly lit concrete passageway leading to the hospital's 2 morgue facilities. The primary morgue, used for routine cases, connected directly to the hospital's pathology department. But Dr. Al-Farsi had specified Morgue B, a smaller, secondary facility reserved for special cases requiring isolation, such as infectious disease victims or VIP patients whose families requested enhanced privacy. This morgue, located at the far end of the basement corridor, operated independently from the main facility and had minimal staff presence, particularly during night shifts. As Amihan pushed through the heavy stainless steel doors of Morgue B at 11:31 p.m., she entered a sterile, harshly lit environment. The space measured approximately 30 by 40 feet, with white tiled walls, polished concrete floors, and stainless steel surfaces throughout. For examination tables dominated the center of the room, surrounded by medical equipment and monitoring systems. Along the back wall stood 3 large freezer units with reinforced steel doors, each containing shelved compartments for body storage. Security cameras covered the main examination area but notably did not extend to the freezer section, a blind spot that would prove crucial in the events that followed. Dr. Al-Farsi was waiting beside one of the examination tables when she entered. According to the reconstruction based on forensic evidence, he initially maintained a professional demeanor, guiding her toward the back of the facility where he claimed the case in question was prepared for examination. What followed was pieced together from physical evidence, partial security footage, and Dr. Al-Farsi's subsequent confession. As they moved beyond the security camera's range, his demeanor changed abruptly. He began with a desperate plea, telling Amihan he knew about her resignation and planned return to Manila. "I've arranged everything," he told her, according to his later statement. "I've secured positions for both of us at Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi. I found specialists for your mother. I can provide everything she needs here. There's no reason for you to leave." When Amihan reiterated her decision to return to Manila, explaining again her mother's need for her direct care and her responsibility to her family, Dr. Al-Farsi revealed his ultimate plan. He would leave Nadia, divorce his wife, and build a new life with Amihan. "You don't understand what I'm offering," he insisted. "No one has ever mattered to me like you do. You're the only person who sees me, not my reputation, not my surgical skills, but me." Amihan's response, as recounted by Dr. Al-Farsi, was gentle but unequivocal. "I care for you, but my family needs me. This relationship isn't healthy for either of us. You need to let me go." It was this final refusal that triggered the catastrophic break. Forensic evidence indicated that Dr. Al-Farsi lunged forward suddenly, grabbing Amihan's arms with enough force to leave distinct bruising patterns on her biceps. The physical struggle that ensued was brief but violent. Defensive wounds on Amihan's hands and forearms showed she fought back, attempting to break free. Trace evidence found under her fingernails matched Dr. Al-Farsi's DNA, confirming she had scratched him during the struggle. From his medical bag, Dr. Al-Farsi produced a syringe containing propofol, a powerful anesthetic typically used for surgical sedation, which he had taken from the hospital's surgical supplies earlier that day. The autopsy would later reveal that he administered approximately 200 milligrams of the drug, double the normal sedation dose for someone of Amihan's size, injecting it with precision into her carotid artery for maximum rapid effect. As a cardiac surgeon, Dr. Al-Farsi understood exactly how quickly the drug would act and how to administer it for near-immediate unconsciousness. The injection site showed the medical precision of someone with extensive anatomical knowledge, entering at precisely the optimal angle to deliver the sedative directly into the bloodstream with minimal tissue damage. Within seconds, the propofol rendered Amihan unconscious. She collapsed against him, all resistance ceased. Rather than summoning help or acknowledging the gravity of his actions, Dr. Al-Farsi made the decision that transformed a criminal assault into murder. Morgue B contained 3 industrial freezer units, each maintaining a temperature of -20 degrees Celsius -4 degrees Fahrenheit. The largest unit, designated for extended storage, measured approximately 8 feet tall, 6 feet wide, and 12 feet deep, with internal shelving designed to accommodate up to 18 bodies. This was the unit Dr. Al-Farsi selected. Before placing Amihan inside, he removed her nursing ID badge and hospital communication device, items that might trigger security alerts if detected inside the freezer. He carefully arranged her body on the middle shelf, positioned as if sleeping rather than haphazardly discarded. Most disturbingly, he removed from his bag the diamond bracelet she had previously returned to him and fastened it around her wrist, a final possessive act. The freezer's mechanical systems created a significant forensic challenge. The extreme cold would slow but not prevent the decomposition process, making time-of-death calculations difficult. The unit's heavy insulated door sealed with an airtight gasket, preventing any sounds from escaping. Most critically, the morgue freezers operated on an independent security protocol. Once closed, they could only be opened from the outside, making escape impossible for anyone trapped inside, even if they regained consciousness. To avoid immediate detection, Dr. Al-Farsi manipulated the morgue's electronic systems. He accessed the facility's computer terminal using his administrative credentials and made two critical changes. He deactivated the freezer's automatic temperature alert system, which would normally send notifications if the door remained open too long, and he altered the inventory log to indicate that Freezer Unit 3 was empty and scheduled for maintenance, ensuring no staff would access it during regular checks. What investigators found most disturbing about the crime was not its execution, but Dr. Al-Farsi's behavior afterward. Rather than leaving the scene, security footage showed him remaining in the morgue for nearly an hour after placing Amihan in the freezer. He sat on a stool facing the unit, occasionally approaching to look through the small reinforced glass window in the freezer door. More chillingly, hospital security logs documented his return to the morgue 3 separate times throughout the night. At 2:14 a.m., 4:07 a.m., and 5:52 a.m. Each visit lasted between 15 and 30 minutes. During these returns, he accessed the freezer briefly, opening the door to look at Amihan's body. One morgue computer showed searches for survival time in extreme cold and propofol metabolism rate at low temperatures, suggesting he was monitoring the progression of her death rather than experiencing immediate remorse. Mohammed Al-Mansouri, a morgue technician with 5 years' experience at Dubai Crescent Hospital, arrived for his 7 a.m. shift on October 7, 2023. His routine began with a standard inventory check of all morgue facilities, comparing the electronic records with actual occupancy. I started with Morgue A, which had 4 occupants, all properly logged, Al-Mansouri told investigators. When I moved to Morgue B, the system showed it was empty except for Freezer Unit 3, which was marked for maintenance. But protocol requires visual confirmation of all units regardless of status. At approximately 7:23 a.m., Al-Mansouri opened Freezer Unit 3 for his visual inspection. The sight that greeted him defied all expectation. A hospital staff member, still in nursing scrubs, lying on the middle shelf. At first, I thought it was some horrible prank, he recounted. Then I noticed the frost patterns on her skin and uniform. I immediately checked for vital signs, but her body was completely rigid, and her skin was the gray-blue color that comes with extreme hypothermia. I knew she had been there for hours. Al-Mansouri activated the emergency protocol at 7:25 a.m., triggering an automatic alert to hospital security and medical response teams. The first responder, Dr. Layla Hakim, arrived at 7:29 a.m. and immediately recognized the victim. It was absolutely shocking, Dr. Hakim later testified. Amihan was one of our most respected nurses. Finding her in the freezer was incomprehensible. I checked for any signs of life, but it was clear from the body temperature and fixed lividity that she had been dead for several hours. Hospital security locked down the morgue at 7:34 a.m. Chief Security Officer Khalid al-Blaushi implemented the critical incident protocol, sealing all exits and restricting access to essential personnel only. Dubai police were notified at 7:38 a.m., with the first officers arriving at 7:52 a.m. Detective Saeed Al-Suwaidi of Dubai Police Special Investigations took command of the scene at 8:15 a.m. His first actions established the professional, methodical approach that would characterize the entire investigation. From the moment we arrived, we treated this as a homicide, Al-Suwaidi explained. The victim's presence in a secure, restricted area immediately ruled out accident or suicide. We preserved the scene exactly as found, documenting everything before any movement of the body. Forensic photographers captured 342 images of the morgue, freezer unit, and Amihan's body in situ. Crime scene technicians collected trace evidence including fibers, fingerprints, and biological samples from throughout the facility. Medical examiner Dr. Fatima Al-Zabi performed preliminary examination at the scene before authorizing removal of the body at 10:47 a.m. The initial examination revealed critical details. Amihan's body temperature had fallen to approximately -15 degrees Celsius at the core, indicating she had been in the freezer for at least 6 to 8 hours. Injection marks on her neck showed evidence of forced sedation. Bruising patterns on her arms and defensive wounds on her hands indicated a struggle before unconsciousness. The diamond bracelet on her wrist, later identified as the Cartier piece Dr. Al-Farsi had previously given her, provided an immediate clue to potential perpetrators. As the forensic team processed the scene, Detective Al-Suwaidi initiated a systematic review of hospital security footage. The video trail quickly established a timeline. Amihan entering the morgue at 11:31 p.m., Dr. Al-Farsi arriving 20 minutes earlier, neither emerging afterward, and Dr. Al-Farsi's multiple returns throughout the night. The investigation rapidly expanded beyond the immediate crime scene. Technicians discovered propofol missing from the surgical supply inventory, 200 milligrams unaccounted for during Dr. Al-Farsi's surgery the previous day. Amihan's phone, recovered from her locker, contained the text message from Dr. Al-Farsi luring her to the morgue. Hospital computer logs showed Dr. Al-Farsi's credentials used to alter the freezer inventory records. By noon on October 7th, investigators had interviewed 8 hospital staff members who had interacted with either Amihan or Dr. Al-Farsi in the 24 hours preceding her death. These interviews yielded crucial context. Nurse Santos's account of Amihan mentioning a meeting with Dr. Al-Farsi, head nurse Fatima's observations about their changing relationship, and security personnel noting Dr. Al-Farsi's unusual appearance and behavior when entering the hospital. The preliminary autopsy, completed by 3 p.m., confirmed the investigative team's suspicions. Dr. Al-Zabi's report stated, primary cause of death, extreme hypothermia following sedation with propofol. Secondary factors, respiratory suppression from sedative effect. Manner of death, homicide. Time of death estimated between 12 a.m. and 2 a.m., October 7, 2023. By 4:30 p.m., the evidence against Dr. Zain Al-Farsi had become overwhelming. Detective Al-Suwaidi faced a delicate situation. Arresting one of Dubai's most prominent medical figures required careful handling, particularly given his connections to influential families. We approached this like any other homicide, but with awareness of the sensitivity, Al-Suwaidi explained. His status didn't affect the investigation, but it did require us to ensure absolute procedural perfection. We knew every aspect would be scrutinized. Rather than making a public arrest at the hospital, Dubai police coordinated with hospital administration to summon Dr. Al-Farsi to an emergency meeting regarding a serious patient incident. When he arrived at the administrative offices at 5:45 p.m., he was met by Detective Al-Suwaidi and 4 officers. The shock on his face lasted only moments before being replaced by an unsettling calm. As the detective began to read his rights, Dr. Al-Farsi interrupted with words that chilled everyone present. She wasn't supposed to suffer. I made sure she wouldn't feel the cold. It was the most merciful way I could keep her with me. With those words, the respected cardiac surgeon who had saved countless lives confessed to taking one in the most intimate betrayal imaginable, transforming healing hands into instruments of possession and death. Following Dr. Al-Farsi's initial confession, Dubai police executed a search warrant on his Marina penthouse at 8:30 p.m. on October 7, 2023. 4 officers and 2 forensic technicians arrived at the luxury building, where management provided immediate access to the residence. The scene revealed a life meticulously compartmentalized. The main living areas, designed in minimalist luxury with Italian furniture and Gulf-inspired art, showed no indication of personal turmoil. Detective Al-Suwaidi noted the museum-like quality of these spaces, with nothing out of place, as if staged for a magazine shoot rather than lived in. In Dr. Al-Farsi's private study, secured with a separate electronic lock, investigators discovered evidence of his psychological deterioration. The space contained a surgical-grade desk with his laptop open, a wall of medical texts, and most significantly, a collection of items related to Amihan arranged with disturbing precision on custom shelving. This shrine included photographs of Amihan taken without her knowledge, at the hospital, entering her apartment, dining with friends. Beside these sat items she had touched: a coffee cup with lipstick traces preserved under acrylic, a hair clip in a sealed glass container, a hospital ID badge duplicate. Most disturbing was a series of leather-bound journals containing detailed accounts of her daily activities, conversations, and physical descriptions. The October journal's most recent entry, dated October 6th, contained the damning passage: "She doesn't understand that some connections transcend ordinary boundaries. If she insists on leaving, perhaps there's a way she can stay with me forever. The morgue freezers would preserve her perfectly, a fitting solution for someone who has become as essential to me as my own heartbeat." While the search continued, Zain Al-Farsi arrived, having been notified of her husband's arrest. Her performance was described as practically choreographed. Appearing visibly distressed, demanding explanations, insisting there must be some terrible mistake. When shown the journal evidence, she collapsed into a chair, covering her face with manicured hands. "This isn't the man I married," she told officers. "I knew nothing of this obsession. Nothing." Phone records would later reveal that Nadia had called her father and the family's attorney before contacting hospital administration or expressing concern for Amihan's family, a timeline that undermined her claims of complete surprise. Meanwhile, Dr. Al-Farsi was transported to Dubai Police Headquarters for processing. Officers noted his unusual composure. He complied with all requests: fingerprinting, DNA sampling, photography, with the same precision he brought to surgical procedures. When asked if he understood the severity of the situation, he reportedly replied, "Of course, I'm a highly educated man, but you're viewing this through an incomplete lens." His calm facade cracked only once. When an officer collected his personal effects, including his wedding ring, Dr. Al-Farsi suddenly gripped the man's wrist. "I need to speak with Amihan," he insisted. "There are medical protocols I need to explain to her for a patient." This momentary confusion, his apparent belief that she might still be alive despite his actions, provided the first indication of his disconnection from reality. As Dr. Al-Farsi was being processed, Dubai Crescent Hospital launched an immediate crisis response. At 9 p.m., an emergency board meeting convened, chaired by Sheikh Mansour bin Khalifa. Hospital CEO Dr. Jonathan Wright issued a statement to staff at 10:15 p.m., announcing Dr. Al-Farsi's arrest and confirming Amihan's death as the result of a tragic criminal act. The message emphasized that counseling services would be available and patient care would continue uninterrupted. By midnight, international media had begun reporting the story with headlines focusing on the shocking elements: Star Dubai surgeon arrested in freezer murder of Filipino nurse. CNN. Hospital administration engaged crisis management firm Blue Shield International to handle press inquiries, implementing a strategy that expressed appropriate horror while distancing the institution from Dr. Al-Farsi's actions. The electronic forensics unit accessed Dr. Al-Farsi's devices, recovering over 2,700 text messages between him and Amihan, including many showing her attempts to establish boundaries and his escalating possessiveness. Most damning was the recovery of the Pegasus ProTrack surveillance software installation files on his laptop, purchased for 35,000 dirhams, $9,500, on August 28 and installed on Amihan's phone days later. The program had sent regular location updates, copied her messages, and activated her phone's microphone during private conversations. Financial records painted a picture of escalating obsession. Credit card statements showed that from April through October 2023, Dr. Al-Farsi had spent approximately 970,000 dirhams, $264,000, on gifts, hotels, and services related to Amihan, amounts that increased monthly, with September showing nearly double the expenditures of June. Filipino nursing staff provided revealing insights into Amihan's fears. Roommate Jasmine Mendoza shared text messages expressing concerns about being monitored. Nurse Maria Santos described an incident when Amihan discovered a tracking app on her phone and attempted to delete it, only to find it reinstalled the next day. Gabriel Santos recounted her growing anxiety about Dr. Al-Farsi's unexpected appearances at locations where she had gone without telling him. "She told me, "I feel like I'm suffocating," Santos testified. She said she couldn't even call her mother without wondering if he was listening. On October 10th, forensic psychiatrist Dr. Aisha Rahman conducted the first psychological assessment of Dr. Al-Farsi. Her report documented that he remained cognitively intact, with no evidence of thought disorder or psychosis, but displayed severe narcissistic personality traits with obsessive features. Most concerning was his perspective on the crime itself. He conceptualizes his actions not as murder but as preservation, Dr. Rahman wrote. He repeatedly referred to Amihan as someone who completed him, and spoke of their relationship as a unique connection others couldn't understand. When directly confronted with the fact that he had ended her life, he acknowledged the technical reality but insisted that she remains with me in the only way that mattered. Dr. Al-Farsi was formally charged with premeditated murder, unlawful imprisonment, stalking, and misuse of medical facilities. The prosecution, led by senior prosecutor Fatima El-Marzouki, built a case emphasizing the calculated nature of the crime. For the defense, the Al-Farsi family engaged Ahmad bin Ibrahim, who signaled an intention to pursue a diminished capacity defense based on temporary insanity induced by emotional trauma. 2 weeks after the murder, Nadia Al-Farsi filed for divorce on grounds of extreme emotional distress. In her filing, she described herself as a victim of betrayal and deception, who had no knowledge of her husband's dangerous obsession. She requested privacy during this time of immense personal tragedy, while simultaneously engaging a public relations firm to manage her image. On November 10th, Amihan's family arrived in Dubai. Her mother Elena, frail from rheumatoid arthritis, was accompanied by siblings Maria and Marco. The Philippine government provided diplomatic support, with Consul General Antonio Santos attending all court sessions. Their arrival generated considerable media attention, with images of Elena in a wheelchair, clutching her daughter's nursing pin, appearing worldwide. The trial began on December 5th in Dubai's Central Criminal Court. Prosecutor Al-Marzouki opened with a methodical timeline, using security footage, text messages, and witness statements to establish the progression from professional interaction to fatal obsession. She emphasized the premeditated nature of the crime, pointing to Dr. Al-Farsi's journal entries, his manipulation of hospital systems, and his multiple returns to the freezer. "This was not a crime of passion," she told the court. "It was a crime of possession." When Dr. Al-Farsi realized he could not control Nurse Reyes in life, he made the calculated decision to control her in death. Dr. Al-Farsi took the stand on December 18th. Speaking in a calm tone, he described his relationship with Amihan as a unique connection that transcended ordinary understanding. When questioned about the murder, he displayed disturbing dissociation. "I recognized that her departure would destroy something irreplaceable. I made a medical decision to prevent that loss. The sedative ensured she felt no pain. The cold simply preserved what was most precious to me." The most chilling moment came during cross-examination when asked if he understood that Amihan had her own life separate from him. Dr. Al-Farsi looked confused before responding, "She was going to leave. I couldn't let her destroy what we had built together. You keep using the word murder, but you're missing the medical context. I simply ensured she would remain with me in the only form possible if she insisted on leaving." After a 12-day trial, the jury deliberated for just 4 hours before returning with a unanimous guilty verdict on all charges. During sentencing, Elena Reyes delivered a victim impact statement that left many weeping. "You took my daughter's breath, her future, her chance to see her brother become a doctor. You took the hands that would have cared for me in my illness. You took a light from this world because you could not own it." Judge Al-Mahdi sentenced Dr. Al-Farsi to life imprisonment without possibility of parole. His final statement revealed his continued detachment. "History is filled with stories of great passions that others failed to understand. I acted out of a connection so profound that conventional morality cannot comprehend it. Amihan remains with me even now." The murder of Amihan Reyes fundamentally transformed Dubai Crescent Hospital. Within weeks, the board implemented sweeping reforms addressing the security failures and power imbalances that had enabled the tragedy. Access to restricted areas like the morgue now required dual authorization and biometric verification, with all entries automatically logged and monitored in real time by security personnel. After-hours access for physicians was restricted, ending the privileged entry points that had allowed Dr. Al-Farsi to bypass normal security protocols. The most significant changes came in hospital governance. CEO Dr. Jonathan Wright resigned in January 2024, replaced by Dr. Layla Hakim, who immediately established the Office of Staff Advocacy specifically designed to protect international nurses from harassment and exploitation. Mandatory psychological evaluations were instituted for all medical staff, with ongoing quarterly assessments for those in leadership positions. Anonymous reporting systems allowed staff to flag concerning behaviors without fear of retaliation. Despite these reforms, Dubai Crescent Hospital struggled to recover its reputation. Patient numbers dropped by 32% in the 6 months following the murder. 8 senior physicians resigned, citing the tainted atmosphere and irreparable damage to the institution's standing. The cardiac unit, once the hospital's crown jewel, was completely restructured and renamed. Nadia Al-Farsi executed a carefully orchestrated exit from her marriage and Dubai society. Her divorce was finalized in March 2024, with proceedings sealed by judicial order. Despite prenuptial agreements designed to limit settlements in cases of criminal misconduct, Nadia secured approximately 70% of their joint assets, estimated at over 40 million dirhams, $10.9 million, by leveraging her family's connections and portraying herself as an unwitting victim. Her public appearances during this period were meticulously planned to reinforce this narrative. She donated 1 million dirhams to a domestic violence shelter, gave a single tearful interview to Emirates Woman magazine describing her shattered trust, and attended a hospital fundraiser dressed in somber gray, accepting condolences with practiced dignity. By June 2024, evidence emerged challenging this carefully constructed image. A former household employee revealed witnessing Nadia confronting Zain about the affair weeks before the murder, directly contradicting her claims of complete ignorance. Text messages recovered from Dr. Al-Farsi's cloud storage showed Nadia had issued ultimatums about his relationship with Amihan, raising questions about her role in his psychological deterioration. By then, however, she had relocated to London, where she purchased a Knightsbridge townhouse and began establishing herself in expatriate social circles under her maiden name, Al-Mazrouei. For Amihan's family, justice came in multiple forms. Her remains were repatriated to Manila on January 15, 2024, accompanied by a delegation of Filipino hospital staff from Dubai. The memorial service at Santo Domingo Church drew over 2,000 attendees, including former patients who had traveled from the UAE to pay respects. The Philippine government posthumously awarded her the Bagong Bayani, Modern Hero Medal, given to overseas workers who bring honor to the country. The Dubai Health Authority established the Amihan Reyes Nursing Scholarship, funding 5 Filipino nursing students annually to complete advanced training at UAE institutions. Dubai Crescent Hospital's insurance provided a settlement of 3.5 million dirhams, $952,000, to the Reyes family, securing Elena's ongoing medical care. Most significantly, the case prompted formal diplomatic discussions between the UAE and Philippines regarding improved protections for the 750,000 Filipino workers in the country, resulting in new oversight mechanisms for healthcare professionals working abroad. Meanwhile, Dr. Zain Al-Farsi began serving his life sentence in Al-Ar Central Prison's isolated medical wing. Quarterly psychological evaluations showed no diminishment in his delusional justifications. "She understands now why I did it," he told prison psychiatrists in June 2024. "We have a connection that transcends physical boundaries." Prison officials intercepted 3 letters he attempted to send to Elena Reyes, each containing disturbing references to Amihan being preserved in my heart as perfectly as she was that night. The UAE Medical Licensing Board formally revoked his credentials in February 2024. Former colleagues struggled to reconcile the brilliant surgeon they had known with the murderer he became. Dr. James Morrison, who had worked alongside him for 6 years, perhaps summarized it best. "The hands that saved thousands of lives ultimately took the one that mattered most to him." It's a reminder that technical brilliance doesn't equal humanity. In Manila today, A small garden memorial stands outside Philippine General Hospital, where Amihan began her career. The plaque reads simply, Amihan Reyes, 1995 to 2023. Her compassion lives on in those she healed and in the protections her sacrifice created. In her death, as in her life, Amihan continues to heal, not through her hands, but through the reforms her story inspired, safeguarding countless other healthcare workers from the dangerous dynamics of power, obsession, and control that claimed her life.